At first, sharp, polished, and cruel. Crystal glasses clinked as chandeliers threw gold light across the ballroom. I stood by the flower arch, holding a tray of folded napkins because someone had to keep busy when they didn't belong. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Sweetheart, my stepmother cooed, her voice dripping honey and venom. She glided toward me in a glittering silver gown, the kind that whispered money with every move. Do yourself a favor, don't stand near the bride. We don't want people thinking you're part of the family photos. Her hand brushed my shoulder as she said it, but the shove that followed wasn't gentle. I stumbled back, my heel catching the edge of the carpet. The guests nearby laughed. Real laughter, unfiltered, the kind that bites into your skin. Someone muttered, "She always finds a way to make things awkward." Another added, "Bless her heart, she tries." I smiled, because that's what I'd been taught to do. Smile, stay quiet, disappear. My father was across the room, toasting with his new wife's relatives. He saw me but didn't move. He never did. I turned away, blinking fast, trying to stop the sting behind my eyes. My cousin, the bride, looked perfect in her white lace dress, glowing under the chandeliers. She didn't notice me either. Why would she? I was the invisible girl in her expensive fairy tale. But then something shifted. The faint thump of rotors echoed through the night air outside. Heads turned toward the grand glass doors as the sound grew louder, slicing through the laughter and music. A gust of wind swept in when the doors opened, scattering rose petals across the floor. A man in a navy blue suit stepped inside. The crowd quieted, drawn to him instinctively. He moved with the kind of confidence that didn't need to announce itself. Broad shoulders, calm eyes, a presence that seemed to silence the room without effort. He scanned the hall, then his gaze landed on me. He walked straight through the murmuring guests and stopped a few feet away. "Mrs. Grant," he said, bowing slightly. His voice was low, formal, respectful. "The helicopter's ready for departure." Every head turned. My stepmother's laughter died mid-breath. "Excuse me," she snapped. "You must be mistaken." The man didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed on me. "No mistake, ma'am. Mr. Grant sent me personally." You could feel the air tighten. Phones lifted, whispers spread. My father froze with his champagne halfway to his mouth. I didn't move for a second. My heart pounded so loud I could feel it in my throat. Then I drew a slow breath, straightened my dress, and stepped forward. My stepmother blocked my path, her painted smile trembling. "What kind of joke is this, Claire?" she hissed. I looked her dead in the eye and said softly, "The kind that finally ends yours." The man extended his hand toward me. I took it. The crowd parted like water. The night air outside hit my skin, cool and electric, as the helicopter blades turned. I didn't look back, because after years of silence, humiliation, and being treated like I was less than them, tonight, for the first time, I wasn't the invisible one anymore. The wind howled against the open landing pad as the helicopter's blades spun faster, scattering flower petals from the wedding behind me. I climbed inside, my pulse still racing. My stepmother's stunned face burned into my mind. The door shut with a clean metallic click, like the sound of a chapter closing. The man in the navy suit sat across from me, adjusting his headset. "Mr. Grant wanted me to make sure you arrived safely, ma'am," he said. "He's waiting at the downtown office. Said you'd understand what this means." I nodded, still gripping the edge of my seat. The city lights stretched beneath us, rivers of gold threading through black. For years, I'd stared at those same lights from a cheap apartment window, wondering if life would ever stop humiliating me. Tonight, the view looked different, not distant anymore. "My name is Claire. I used to think silence was strength. I thought keeping my head down and working harder would make people respect me. But life doesn't reward quiet endurance. It rewards the ones who stand up. I learned that the hard way. 2 years ago, after my father remarried, Victoria kicked me out of our house. She said it wasn't proper for a grown daughter to live with them. My father didn't fight her. He just handed me a few $100s and told me to start over.
So I did.
I got a job at a logistics firm, then another as a weekend assistant at a small aerospace company, the one owned by Nathan Grant. He was quiet, late 40s, a man with sharp eyes and no patience for excuses. I never spoke much to him, just delivered reports and stayed invisible like always. Until one night, when I stayed late finishing inventory after everyone had gone home. He found me asleep at my desk. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone," he'd said, setting a cup of coffee beside me. Hard work speaks louder than their cruelty. That night, for the first time in years, someone saw me. Weeks later, he began mentoring me, taught me about management, contracts, negotiation. He said he saw grit in me. I thought it was just kindness, but it was more than that. When the company restructured, he promoted me. And when his health declined, he named me successor. That's what Victoria didn't know. That's what no one at the wedding knew, that Mr. Grant, the man behind the billion-dollar enterprise, had made me the majority owner before he passed. He left his legacy not to bloodlines, but to the woman who refused to break. The helicopter began its descent. Through the window, I saw the Grant Aerodynamics Tower, sleek glass, glowing with the logo I used to pass on my way to work. Only this time, I wasn't the girl standing outside the gate. When we landed, the pilot opened the door. The man in the suit said quietly, "They're waiting for you upstairs." I stepped out, the city wind whipping through my hair. Cameras were already flashing from the ground. Someone must have leaked the news. The new CEO of Grant Aerodynamics was the girl who'd been mocked at a wedding just an hour ago. And somewhere behind those marble walls, I knew Victoria was already panicking, realizing that the stepdaughter she'd spent years humiliating now held every power she once craved. I smiled to myself, my heels echoing on the pavement. This wasn't revenge. This was justice, finally dressed in confidence. The elevator doors opened to a floor wrapped in glass and gold. The Grant Aerodynamics logo gleamed behind the reception desk, polished to perfection. As I stepped out, employees turned their heads, whispering, trying to connect the dots between the quiet former assistant they once ignored and the woman now walking with the company's emblem pinned to her blazer. I wasn't wearing that same dress from the wedding anymore. On the helicopter, I'd changed into a Navy power suit Nathan had once gifted me. "For the day you finally stop apologizing for being strong," he'd said. The boardroom doors swung open as soon as I approached. Inside, executives stood from their seats, murmuring my name with disbelief. They'd received the announcement before I arrived, Claire Grant, acting CEO and majority shareholder. At the end of the long table sat one person who didn't belong there, my stepmother, Victoria. She'd arrived before me, her face powdered and perfect, her expression frozen between panic and disbelief. My father was next to her, pretending composure, gripping his glass of water like it might save him from drowning. "Claire," he said with forced calm. "This is unexpected." "Not really," I replied, setting my bag down on the table. Nathan trusted me with his company months before he passed. The transition was just waiting for today. Victoria's smile cracked. "You expect us to believe that? You, who could barely keep a job." She gave a sharp laugh. "You must have tricked that poor man somehow." I turned to her, steady. He wasn't poor. And I didn't trick anyone. I worked beside him, earned his trust, and learned every part of his business from the ground up, while you were busy buying designer shoes with my father's money. The board members exchanged looks. One of them, a silver-haired man named Carter, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Grant, the succession papers are valid. The late Mr. Grant signed everything himself. Your stepdaughter owns 71% of the shares." Victoria's face went pale. My father blinked rapidly, his mouth opening and closing like a man trying to find air. I took a slow step toward them. "Funny," I said, "how you used to laugh when I brought you coffee. When I worked double shifts just to pay rent after you threw me out. You said I'd never become anything worth mentioning." My father finally spoke, his voice unsteady. "You could have told us, Claire. We could have celebrated together." I met his eyes, the same eyes that had looked away every time Victoria humiliated me. No, I said quietly. You only celebrate people when there's something to gain. Victoria rose from her seat, trembling but trying to hide it. Listen to me, young lady. No, I cut in. You listen. The room went dead silent. I spent years being quiet, being polite, waiting for people like you to see me. But that's not how respect works. Respect is earned, not begged for. And now I don't need your approval. I don't even need your apology. I turned to the board. I called this meeting because this company's first initiative under my leadership is a full audit of all external vendors and partnerships. If I find that anyone's been using Grant Aerodynamics as a playground for personal gain, my eyes slid back to Victoria. They'll be gone by sunrise. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I gave a small, calm smile. The security escort waiting outside will show you out. You're no longer permitted access to company property. Her face twisted, somewhere between fury and fear. You can't do this. Oh, I can, I said softly. You did worse, just without the paperwork. The guards appeared at the doorway, polite but firm. My father reached out helplessly as they guided her toward the exit. She didn't look at me once. When the doors closed behind them, I finally let myself exhale. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was power reclaiming its space. Carter stepped forward and extended his hand. Welcome back, Mrs. Grant, he said warmly. I think the company's in capable hands. I shook his hand and looked out the window at the city glowing below. The same streets where I used to walk home in the rain, broke and unseen, now stretched beneath me like veins of light. It wasn't revenge that warmed my chest. It was peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't someone's burden or embarrassment. I was someone's legacy, earned, not given. That night, as I left the building, my phone buzzed with dozens of messages. News outlets had already picked up the story. Young woman named successor to Grant Empire, revealed at family wedding. Outside, the wind was cool, carrying the scent of rain. The helicopter waited again, blades silent this time. I paused, glancing at my reflection in the glass door. Not the timid girl who'd been pushed aside. Not the outsider at her own family's table. Just me, Claire Grant, standing where I was always meant to be. And somewhere far away, I knew Victoria was replaying that moment at the wedding. The laughter, the shove, the man in the navy suit, realizing too late that every cruelty she threw at me had built the woman who now held everything she ever wanted. The next morning, the sun climbed over the skyline like it was starting a new story. I sat by the corner window of my penthouse office, coffee in hand. The world stretched below in a blur of glass and noise. Everything still felt surreal. Just days ago, I was the unwanted stepdaughter no one wanted near family photos, and now I was on every business headline in the country. Claire Grant, the woman who went from assistant to CEO. It should have felt like revenge. It didn't. It felt like closure. Still, a small part of me couldn't stop thinking about my father. He hadn't called. He hadn't even sent a message. I'd told myself I didn't care, but deep down I did. Some wounds don't heal with success. They just stop bleeding in public. A knock came at the door. My assistant, Melissa, poked her head in. Mrs. Grant, there's someone here asking to see you. Says it's urgent. I looked up. Who? She hesitated. Your father. For a second, I didn't move. Then I said quietly, send him in. The door opened, and there he was, wearing the same suit from the wedding, now wrinkled and tired. His tie was loose, his expression soft, guilty even. Claire, he began, stepping forward. I didn't know where else to go. I motioned to the chair across from me. You've had years to talk. Why now? He sat slowly, his hands trembling. Victoria's gone, he admitted. She emptied the accounts, left a note saying she deserves a better life. I should have seen it coming. He looked up at me, his eyes full of regret. You were right about her. I said nothing. He continued, voice breaking. You have every right to hate me. I failed you as a father. I thought money could fix everything. I thought keeping peace was the same as keeping family. He shook his head. But I watched that video, the one of you leaving the wedding with that helicopter waiting outside. You looked free. I took a breath, steady but calm. Freedom costs something, Dad. Mine cost your approval. He nodded, swallowing hard. You've built something incredible. Nathan would be proud of you. At his name, my chest tightened. Nathan's guidance, his kindness, his belief in me, it had changed everything. He taught me something you never did, I said quietly. That strength doesn't come from being loud, or rich, or powerful. It comes from knowing your worth when nobody else does. He looked down at his hands. I don't deserve forgiveness. No, I replied softly, but I deserve peace. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The city hummed below, cars crawling like ants, the morning sun turning the windows gold. Finally, I stood and walked to the window. When you pushed me aside, I built something out of it, I said. Every insult, every laugh, they became bricks. And now I'm standing in the house you said I could never build. He stood too, tears glistening. Claire, I'm sorry. I turned back, meeting his eyes, not with anger, but finality. I know. He left quietly after that. No big scene. No breakdown. Just a father finally realizing what his silence had cost. After he left, Melissa came in again, holding a stack of documents. Ma'am, reporters want to know if you're making a statement about your family. I smiled faintly.
No.
Let them guess. She nodded and slipped out, leaving me alone with the morning light. Across the skyline, the same ballroom where I'd been humiliated last night glittered in the distance. I thought about that girl, standing in a borrowed dress, holding napkins, pretending not to hear laughter. And then I thought about the woman sitting here now, calm, confident, untouchable. It wasn't luck. It wasn't revenge. It was resilience. My phone buzzed. A message appeared from an unknown number. I'm proud of you. NG. I froze. Nathan's initials. For a heartbeat, I wondered if it was some automated message, something scheduled before he passed. But then I remembered what he once told me during one of our late-night talks. When the right people finally see your light, don't hide it. Let it blind the ones who tried to dim it. I smiled, eyes stinging, as I looked out at the city. Maybe that message wasn't from him. Or maybe it was. Either way, it reminded me that everything had come full circle. That evening, as the sun melted into the skyline, I stood on the rooftop helipad again. The wind whipped through my hair, the same hum of rotor blades echoing in the distance. Only this time, there was no crowd, no laughter, no humiliation, just peace. I whispered to myself, never again. And as the helicopter lifted into the amber sky, I felt something powerful. Not revenge, not victory, but freedom. The kind that only comes when you stop chasing validation and start building your own destiny. Because in the end,